Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us. My name is Russell Frost. This is our Kia Optima EX Hybrid review. So I'm 3 days into this review, and it's hard for me to place this car in the spectrum of vehicles that I've driven, that I'm familiar with, that I know about, because there's a lot of contradictions here. It's feature packed. It's a hybrid capable of good MPG, but some of the features seem to be rather clumsily implemented. Some of the controls are kind of funky. Some of the stuff, I don't want to say doesn't work all the time, but let's just say that, for instance, the lane keep assist sensor doesn't seem to be 100%. My experience is, out of 7 tries, 2 of them failed. It didn't intentionally, playing around with the line, it didn't register. The other 5 times it did. What does that mean? Well, in my somewhat unscientific testing, that means to me that the feature isn't 100% reliable. This Kia has given me a chance to play with something that I haven't had a chance to play with yet, and that's Apple CarPlay. The touchscreen infotainment center here is kind of clunky. It's kind of weird. It doesn't scroll very smoothly or very fast. You kind of have to help it. It's kind of funky. Interestingly enough, when you plug in CarPlay and the CarPlay screen comes on, it scrolls like a beautiful brand new iPad. I have to assume that's Kia software. So CarPlay has limitations. Obviously there's only certain apps that work with it, and those apps, like Siri, for instance, have a reputation for not always delivering exactly what the owner wants them to deliver. So it's very cool that it's implemented so well and so smooth, and that it's very responsive. But again, some of the features, kind of funky. It's very much like my experience in this car in general, in that it's hard for me every time I find something I really like and I get enthusiastic about it. I kind of get shot down at some point because something doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to. So it'll be interesting to see as the week goes on and I get more seat time in this car. Tomorrow I'm going to spend more than a few hours driving, and I'm looking forward to it, to kind of get a feel for how this vehicle performs. On paper, this thing should be a great deal. It should be an awesome car. But we all know, anyone who's ever driven more than one car knows that what happens on paper and what happens in the real world can often be 2 very different things. I like the panoramic roof. It's nice. Probably nicer for the people in the back seat than the people in the front seat. It sits kind of back. But it's pretty, and it looks nice from the outside. That's a plus. The control's kind of hinky, which kind of goes without saying. The control's kind of hinky. It really should be like a 2-button control, but it's sort of a combo 1-button tilt rocker slider thing that sort of does what it's supposed to do. The car's performance-wise, MPG is good but really inconsistent. I've been all over the place. It's really easy to get 25 MPG in this car. And by that I mean it's really easy to drive poorly and get 25 MPG. And that's kind of a shame, because even in eco mode, you can get pretty horrible MPGs. You can drive very carefully and get in the high 40s, in 46, 47, 48. I haven't driven much on the freeway yet, so I'll be interested to see how that works. But in town, the MPGs are kind of disappointing. Performance-wise, as far as the vehicle driving, it's not unpleasant to drive. It steers steering's fairly well. It's a fairly comfortable ride. It doesn't like bumps. It doesn't like railroad tracks and speed bumps. It doesn't smooth that stuff out much. Most of that goes right to your kidneys and spine. Thank you for that. And acceleration, as I may have mentioned earlier, acceleration is odd. And it's odd because of the gas pedal. The gas pedal is freaky in this car. It jumps. It's as though it was tuned to impress 17-year-old drivers and be jumpy off the line, which I can't believe this car is aimed at. But yeah, and that obviously also impacts your MPG significantly when you've got a gas pedal that's very touchy like that. So, you know, that aspect of the vehicle is acceptable, but kind of weird. Like I said, comfort-wise, it's nice. It's big. You know, there's storage for things. You know, there's phone charging and whatnot. There's no wireless charging, but frankly, that's not something that is super important to me. If you have because my phone doesn't wireless charge, so. You know, it's easy for me to overlook that. But there's a USB outlet, an aux outlet, you know, a couple of regular 12-volt outlets. It's, you know, it's basically competitive with the vehicles in this class. I think the real question comes down to, is this the vehicle in that class that you want? And that's what I'm trying to sort out in my head. I mean, you know, I just 2 weeks ago finished a week with Avalon, with Toyota Avalon. Their top of the line 4-door, you know, luxury sedan. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Avalon is nicer. I haven't seen the sticker on this yet, but I think the Avalon's also significantly more expensive, so it should be. And maybe that's the riddle that needs to be answered with this car. Is, you know, is it okay to be cheaper? Is it okay to be not as good if it's cheaper? Is that cool? Is that acceptable? I'm not sure. You know, if you only have X amount to spend, you know, then it is what it is. You do the best you can. But, you know, ostensibly someone who's going to spend $30,000 or more could probably spend 35 or 40. I'm not saying they want to. I'm just saying, you know, this isn't the difference between a $17,000 car and a $21,000 car. I'm talking about a car that I think at base is $30,000 or $32,000. So, and I'm not sure exactly how this specs out. There are odd things about this Kia Optima EX that I can't really wrap my head around. Manual gear shift. There's nothing I dislike more in a car that's basically drive-by-wire than a mechanical linkage transmission here. It just doesn't make sense. It's not convenient. It's an analog throwback that to me is anachronistic, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. It's also weird in that normally where the stick is, it lines up with the PR, N, or D. In this case, it doesn't, and you have to look at a little indicator light to kind of see where you are. That's just bizarre. That's obviously because of the automatic shifting feature that it has. But it's just, again, it's a weird feature for me to make something like that so counterintuitive. So, do I recommend this car? I think it might be right for some people. You want a four-door luxury sedan. You want a four-door luxury sedan that has the latest set of safety features, that is a hybrid, that will be fuel efficient, that will pollute less, that will use less fuel, but you have a certain budget. this car maybe this is your car then. But comparing it to the competitors in its class, I'm not sure it's the go-to vehicle. I'm not sure it was made to be. The difficult thing about making a vehicle comparison is to compare apples to apples. That's the tough part, because oftentimes what happens is someone compares two vehicles that aren't exactly comparable, but it proves their point, whatever their point was, that vehicle X was bad or vehicle Y was bad because it doesn't do what vehicle X or Y does. So I try to avoid, like, is this car better than something else? Because, there are strong points for most vehicles and weak points. And that doesn't mean that every vehicle is something that I'd recommend. Far from it. But that is an acknowledgement that you have to look at these vehicles in the context of what they are and what probably the manufacturer intended them to be. And that's always hard, because you don't really know what the manufacturer's intent was. You think you can, you intuit it, you go, oh, well, obviously this was meant to compete with this. But in the end, when it comes off the production line, it's different than even what the manufacturer probably had on the drawing board for whatever reason, for cost of parts or for assembly reasons or part supply, who knows what. Again, this isn't moral relativity. This isn't everything is great in its own way. Every car does not win a participation trophy. What I'm saying is it's important to be careful and judge each car on its merits and decide how successful it is in being that car. And then look at the other things in that class and go, how successful are they at being what they are? And then you can start to assess value, I think. That's at least my way of doing it. It may seem overcomplicated, but I mean, that's why I do this. What's the old saying? You've got to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince? Well, here I am kissing frogs. I'm Russell Frost for What Drives Us. This has been my Kia Optima EX Hybrid review. Thanks very much for watching. You can watch us on youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Please visit us at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. We're on Twitter at whatdrivesus, all one word, no spaces, no other funky things. Visit us, follow us, friend us. We want to interact with you. We want to hear your questions. We want to know what you think of these reviews and what you'd like to see in future reviews, because we've got more scheduled and we're going to be doing these a lot. So jump in and participate with us. Thanks again very much. We'll see you next time.